How's it, everyone? Welcome to another string review right here on Open Court. I'm Kent, and today I am reviewing a Tecnifibre string which is used by former US Open champion Daniil Medvedev. That string is the Tecnifibre Razor Soft. Let's check it out. So the Razor Soft, as the name suggests, is supposed to be a softer version of Tecnifibre's Razor Code, which supposedly Medvedev used to use before he switched over into this one. This string has a melted polyurethane additive in its core, which is supposed to kind of soften up the feel, but I want to get one thing straight. This string is not what I would consider a soft string. I haven't played with this yet, but when I was stringing it up, it actually felt kind of stiff, and the package and Tecnifibre even confirms that this is supposed to be a control-oriented poly that has a little bit of a firm feel. Why they decided to name it Razor Soft doesn't really make much sense to me, since it's not really a soft string. The original Razor Code was a little bit on the firmer side, but I wouldn't consider it to be very stiff. So I'm curious to see just how much softer and how different this string is going to feel to the original Razor Code. I actually really like the Razor Code. It's probably one of the better round polys that I've tried. This one, I hope I will get a little bit more power, which Tecnifibre promises, but still maintaining that control-oriented feel and getting decent amounts of spin. This string is also made using Tecnifibre's patented thermal core technology, which increases the molecular bonding structure of the string. Basically, it means that it's supposed to hold tension better than other polyester strings, which has been the case for the Tecnifibre strings I've tried in the past. This string comes in two colors, the carbon and the lime. I'm trying the carbon color, and it comes in 3 gauges, 130, 125, and 120 millimeters. I'm trying the 125 gauge, and this string will run about $20, which is about the same price as Alu Power, so it's not cheap. It's on the pricier side for for polys. So I'm curious to see if it's going to maintain that value for money like some other cheaper Tecnifibre strings. Alright, so I got the Razor Soft strung up in my Yonex V-Core SV98. It's been a while since I played with this racket, but I'm curious because this racket is a little bit on the stiffer side. I want to see if this is going to play a little bit softer, have decent comfort, but also maintain that spin potential and the controlled, oriented, firm feel that Tecnifibre promises. I strung it up at 53, which is a little bit tighter than I probably should have, because I thought this was going to be a bit of a softer string until I did more research into it. But 53 should be fine. I don't mind higher tensions. So without further ado, let's get on the court. But before we go out and test the Razor Soft, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button if you guys like this content to keep the reviews coming. So let's start with the pros of the Tecnifibre Razor Soft. But before that, I just wanted to say that this string was not as soft as I thought it would be. In fact, once the string settled in, I felt barely any give in the string bed. It's not a stiff string by any means, but I wouldn't classify it as a comfortable one. That being said, I like the firm and controlled feel. My initial impression was that this string felt similar to Head Hawk Touch, which is a string that I'm not a fan of. However, the Razor Soft felt a bit more solid in its impact. Despite being control-oriented, the Hawk Touch feels mushy and dampened, but the Razor Soft gave me a decent amount of feedback. I actually found the Razor Soft to perform better for me on ground strokes. My favorite aspect of this string was setting up camp on the baseline and cranking forehands. This string has a very control-oriented response. It doesn't provide a whole lot of natural topspin, but my forehand stayed inside the lines on even the most aggressive swings. The Razor Soft has a decent amount of dwell time, and it feels like the strings are sapping the kinetic energy from the ball as it sits on the strings. This allows big swings to come off with less force and allows the user to provide the power. This is more akin to stiffer polys, but I felt the Razor Soft achieved this without stiffening up and hurting my arm. Honestly, I think this string is not too different from the original Razor Code, and it seems a bit pointless for this string to exist. It does feel a tad softer, but not by much. This string is not a comfort poly in my opinion. The feel on the Razor Soft is also decent because of the dwell time. From the first hit, I noticed that it actually sent a decent amount of vibration up my arm, and I could really feel a solid impact from my aggressive swing. This string doesn't have the crisp response of a Tour Bite or Lynx Tour, but it provided enough feedback for me, and when I struck the ball solid in the sweet spot, I knew instantly that my shot was going to land where I was aiming. It doesn't have a satisfying pop sensation in the sweet spot, but it gave me the confidence to stay on the gas and aim toward the sidelines. Stringing the Razor Soft at 53 pounds also gave it a fairly low launch angle, which I appreciated on my returns. I like to step in and take the return early. I don't always catch the sweet spot cleanly, but the Razor Code had a good balance of control and power outside the sweet spot. Most stiff polys just die outside the center, but the Razor Soft still managed to get the ball over the net. The Razor Soft initially felt really springy. I was actually a little worried, but once it settled into my racket, it felt as if it stiffened up ever so slightly and started to perform much more consistently. Usually strings feel stiff during the break-in period, then gradually loosen up, but the Razor Soft had the opposite effect. I've never encountered this before, so it was interesting, but it gave me more and more confidence as the playtest went on. Unfortunately, I didn't play with this string long enough to really feel the difference in tension loss, but it maintained tension over the course of about 6 hours of me pounding my ground strokes, so I'd say it did an admirable job. I also found the Razor Soft to work well for me in my touch game. I was actually very surprised by my lobs. To be honest, I rarely ever lob, even on defense. I like to use lobs on the offense where I see an opportunity to hit the ball over my opponent's head and approach the net. I was able to drop my lobs within 2 feet of the baseline consistently, and I knew instantly as the ball left my strings that it was going to go in. That allowed me to rush the net without hesitation and put pressure on my opponent. This string also had enough spring in it to work well on defensive reflex volleys. I don't always catch those clean, so any string that provides that little extra push to get the ball over the net is appreciated. Angle volleys and drop shots were fine, but this time around I honestly didn't have too many opportunities to hit them. But I liked the response at net, although I preferred hitting ground strokes with the Razor Soft. Now let's get into the cons of the Razor Soft. I like this string overall, but I'm not sure if I prefer it over the original Razor Code, and this is the issue. I didn't find enough differences between the Razor Code and Razor Soft to justify its existence. It doesn't feel noticeably softer. I reviewed Tour Bite Soft and Hyper G Soft earlier this year, and even those strings weren't drastically softer than their original counterparts, but I still noticed a difference. I barely noticed the difference between the Razor Code and Razor Soft. Maybe if I played them back to back I would notice, but like I said earlier, I wouldn't classify this string as a comfort poly. Yes, I strung it at 53 pounds in a stiff racket, but that's how I always test quote-unquote soft strings anyway. I want to see if the string will actually give me a comfortable response. Although I don't have arm issues and comfort isn't a huge priority for me, for some players with more sensitive arms, I would suggest looking at other soft polys. The second issue I had was with the spin potential. This string is not great, even for a round poly. The coating on the outside isn't especially slick, and I didn't feel much string movement upon impact. The Razor Soft gets great control from the baseline, but in this case, it has to do more with the sapping of kinetic energy rather than biting topspin that brings the ball down sharply. My kick serve suffered the most from the lack of spin. My serve just sat up for my opponent to smash. Even when I took off some pace and prioritized swinging up on the ball, I barely noticed any bounce. When I tried to flick my wrist and pronate more, that brought the ball down into the net. I double faulted into the net quite a bit during this playtest, and I noticed almost all of my faults were hitting the net cord. Surprisingly, the serve that worked the most for me was my slice flat hybrid. The Razor Soft provided enough power where it would clear the net and curve just enough for my opponent to struggle returning it. Besides that, none of my serves were working for me, and I was using the V-Core SV98, which is a pretty good serving racket. Also, the lack of spin affected my slices. I like to use slices offensively whenever possible because a low, deep slice forces my opponents to scoop the ball up from below their knees. This usually results in high balls I can smash at the net. With the Razor Soft, I found my slices floating up more than usual. If I wasn't careful, I would send the slice past the baseline or the sideline. But at the same time, if I got lazy with my swing, I would just dump the slice into the net. It made me work really hard to hit an effective slice, which is usually something pretty natural for me. The ball does sit on the strings quite well though, so I could pull slices left and right without much issue. They just didn't have the low trajectory and sliding action I've become accustomed to with shaped polys. Lastly, this is just personal opinion. Well, actually this entire review is personal opinion, but I don't think the Razor Soft justifies its price tag. It's $20. Does it play like Alu Power? No, it doesn't. It probably holds tension better than alu power, and I acknowledge that it is important for many people, but for me, a fresh set of alu or even cheaper strings in the same brand like Black Code 4S play better. Not that the Razor Soft is bad, it's just if you gave me an unmarked package of Razor Soft and asked me to play with it and guess the price tag, I would guess somewhere between $10 to $12. So, who is the Tecnifibre Razor Soft for? I think it's best suited for players who hit flat and don't want something completely dead. This string excels from the baseline and it provides great control, but not with the assistance of tremendous spin. I don't think the Razor Soft is for players who like to swing up and utilize heavy topspin. The Razor Soft is control oriented and rewards big swings. This isn't a power and comfort string, but it doesn't skimp on those areas either. All around, it's a good solid string that flat hitters will enjoy banging ground strokes with. In that sense, this string seems perfect for Daniil Medvedev. So, now let me hear from you. Have you tried Razor Soft? Did you notice a big difference between this and the Razor Code? And am I way off base? Let me know in the comments what you think of the Tecnifibre Razor Soft. Thank you for watching this review of the Tecnifibre Razor Soft string right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.